Big boxes were a staple of PC gaming in the early 90s and early 2000s. They were replaced in favour of smaller DVD cases, and then these were replaced in the digital era with a license, with terms and conditions.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
I really like displaying the media I own, whether it's vinyls or Blu-rays. With PC gaming, you don't really get that as much these days, so I really miss these big boxes. So the plan is to make a collection of miniature versions of these retro artifacts with some modern features. Inside, there'll be an NFC tag that once scanned will launch the game on the PC, along with an SD card containing installation files where available. Here's how it's all going to work. Beside the TV, I'll have an NFC reader where the game boxes are tapped and scanned. Then using a program called HasAgent installed on the computer, I can create launch game buttons. HasAgent is going to send these buttons to Home Assistant, an open source home automation platform. In Home Assistant, I'll set up an automation. When Game A NFC tag is scanned, press the Launch Game A button. Big boxes never had a standard size, so I'm going to use this Sims box as a reference. I'm using TemplateMaker.nl to make these boxes. Initially I made one around 1/6 of the size, however it was looking a bit thin, so I increased the width until I was happy. The final dimensions were 62.5 by 22 by 75. If you use the site, there's a link to buy the guy a coffee. I used Launchbox's game database for the box art and started putting together the designs in Photoshop. There was a little bit of cropping, adding the logo to the spine, and extending some of the images to cover the sides, using Photoshop tools like Content Aware, Clone Stamp, and the new AI Slop button. After finishing off the designs, I got the printer out the cupboard, but unfortunately it wasn't up to the task. Upon discovering a new ink cartridge is about the same price as a printer, I did have a wee huff, and I ended up going to the local print shop. I cut them to size and glued them onto some thick card. After cutting them out, I folded them using the table edge and a steel rule. Then I stuck the NFC stickers to the inside of the box, which once scanned will launch the game. I was happy with the final results. My folding method wasn't perfect for alignment and it also caused some cracking, but I'll just pretend it was intentional aging. For the NFC reader, I was planning on just buying this one from Odono, however it was out of stock at the time. Thankfully it's open source, so I followed the GitHub, bought the components and soldered them together, flashed the firmware and got it connected to Home Assistant. Here I'm testing it with the lamp behind me. All looked good, so I printed the case for it and jammed it in. Next I designed some SD card labels. Cutting these out wasn't very fun, so I should have bought some dedicated template paper. Now for an SD card holder I can slide into the box. Found this model on Printables, but it didn't really work out for my use case. I did pinch the handle though. Then I used this model and placed it inside a box on Tinkercad. After printing, I removed the supports and sanded them down a little. Then I spray painted them to roughly match the colour of the boxes. While on the subject of 3D printing, I also found this great OpenSCAD design to create custom display shelves. Next, using GOG, a DRM-free game store, I downloaded the installers and put them on the SD cards. For older games like Worms Armageddon, I just transferred the whole folder over. On the PC, I've got HasAgent installed, and here I can create commands and send them to Home Assistant. The command is really simple, it's just the file path of the games.exe. For Steam games like Super Meat Boy, I was able just to use the .exe, but It Takes Two wasn't opening outside of Steam. For these games, I used the command start Steam // run game ID / the game ID, which I found on steamdatabase.info. Once I clicked store and activate commands, these were sent to Home Assistant, where I can press a button and it will launch the game. With all the individual components complete, now it was time just to link all of these processes together. While monitoring the tags section in Home Assistant, I scanned a game box, and once it appeared, I created a simple automation. When this tag is scanned, press the button to launch the game. I actually also ended up writing new data on these tags with my phone, so the tag's name was the game's name rather than a string of letters and numbers. Here's my first test of scanning the game. Cuphead took a while to launch, but I got there eventually. Now it's time just to package all this up. I'm a big proponent of physical media. I think you should own what you buy. Unfortunately, companies have used the digital era to strip rights from their consumers. Licenses have replaced ownership. Steam is the darling of the video game industry, and they're very trustworthy. But one day, when Gable no longer is here, who knows what the future of Steam will hold? GOG, on the other hand, offer DRM-free games. This means you can download a .exe installer and keep that game forever, never having to rely on servers going offline, licenses being revoked, or potential future censorship. Going forward, if a game's on GOG, that's my first preference. What about games you already own on other platforms? I have GTA San Andreas. I'll open Steam, that'll open Rockstar Launcher, which always logs me out for some reason. I'll open my password manager, I'll sign in, and eventually I'm allowed to play my game. F that. I've bought this game on PS2, Xbox 360, Android, and PC, and you're still checking if I'm allowed to play. Nava.exe that just works. Anyway, that's them all assembled in their wee boxes, looking pretty on their wee shelves. As a bonus, I also stuck some NFC tags to some old floppy disks. These shut down the computer, close all the windows, and this one opens Steam for the games I haven't converted to boxes. Also, since I already have all the buttons in Home Assistant, I did make a custom page launcher using picture entity cards. I'm not sure I'll ever use this, as it's kind of the opposite point of this project, but all the buttons were already in Home Assistant, so I thought I'd make a dedicated page for them. And that's it, wee big boxes. I'm really pleased with how these came out, despite some of the worn edges being a little bit on the rough side. I like having these out on display. The digital era is great for minimalists, but some of us like having stuff. We like having things on our walls and shelves that show off our personality. As a PC gamer, it is getting near impossible to obtain a physical copy, but I like this as a compromise. I just like having physical media, and compared to endless scrolling on a screen, it's immensely more satisfying handling something tangible, something real.